Have prepared for you on Business Incorporated. As expected, reactions are trailing that crude for Naira approval from the Federal Executive Council in Nigeria. Ethiopia is now set to get that loan from IMF, $3.4 billion, and that's after they're floating their currency. And then in Zimbabwe, tourism is booming. Let's find out how much they are making from there. Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa. This is what we'll be doing the next 55 minutes. Business beginning from the global space. Oil steadied on Tuesday near its lowest level since early June, as worries about demand in China were balanced by government pledge of policy measures for the economy and the prospect of lower U.S. crude and product inventories. A raft of disappointing economic news from China, which is the world's largest crude importer, has been weighing on commodity prices. China's manufacturing activity is likely to shrink for a third month in July, and that's according to market forecasts. Brent crude rose by 8 cents, that's about 0.1%, to $79.86 a barrel. It fell intraday to $79.34, the lowest since June 10. U.S. crude was down, that's WTI, down by 12 cents, 0.2% to $75.69. Oil fell 2% in the previous session after Israel signaled that its response to rocket strike in Israeli-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday would be calculated to avoid dragging the Middle East into an all-out war. Still in the global space now, gold struggled for momentum on Tuesday as investors looked for more cues on when the U.S. Central Bank will cut interest rates from this week's policy meeting and data releases. Spot gold was down 0.1%, $2,380.31 per ounce, while U.S. gold futures was a little changed, $2,377.30. The Federal Reserve is expected to hold rates steady at the end of its two-day meeting, which starts later on today, but open the door to policy easing as early as September by acknowledging inflation is edged nearer to its 2% target. Inventories will also keep a tab on a series of employment data, which is scheduled to be released later on this week. The main focus on the non-farm payrolls that is due on Friday. Among other metals, spot silver fell 0.6% to $27.69 per ounce. Platinum was flat at $948.55, and palladium dipped 0.7% to $897.50. Let's come to Nigeria now. Look at some corporate results, financial results, which flew in, a whole lot of them from yesterday, even as we speak. Beginning with Seplat Energy, a leading player in the Nigerian oil and gas sector. They've released their financial results for the second quarter of the year, and the data reveals a notable shift in the company's financial performance for the second quarter, that's Q2. Seplat Energy reported a robust revenue of 306 billion naira with a substantial operating profit of 162 billion naira, profit before tax 140 billion naira. These results, sourced from the Nigerian exchange, highlight a rise in revenue in the second quarter of 2024 compared to the same period in 2023, and that remains to be seen as how investors, of course, will react to that by the close of trade today. And still looking at results, Fidelity, no result at this time, but Fidelity Bank, they've been in the market with their public cover. They've extended that by 2 weeks in its ongoing combined offer, public offering and rights issue. That's what they've had. The bank applied and received approval of Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission to extend the closing date of the application and acceptance list till August 12, 2024. The combined offer is a part of the bank's strategy to increase its share capital base in compliance with the revised minimum capital requirement for Nigerian commercial banks, which was introduced by the regulator the Central Bank of Nigeria in March. Under the rights issue, 3.2 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each are offered in the ratio of 1 new ordinary share for every 10 ordinary shares held as at January 5, 2024 at 9 Naira 25 kobo per share. And yes, those reactions are still following that announcement yesterday. Stakeholders in the oil and gas industry are reacting to the adoption of President Bola Tinubu's proposal that the NNPCL sells crude to domestic refiners in Naira instead of the dollar. The statement was contained in an ex-post by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Nonuga. Well, he said that this will reduce finance costs, which currently stands about $79 million. His post also indicates that the exchange rate will be fixed for the duration of the period. That's about 3 years. Of course, we have reactions from that with now the Dr. Ayodele Oni. He's a stakeholder in the oil and gas industry.
It's better to provide subsidy to our local players for productive use than subsidy that is corruptly used and goes to no value addition and goes to no advantage for the populace. So I think it's also using taxpayers' money anyway to provide that subsidy for productive activity. Governments world over have to make policy decisions, and you have to make policy choices. And when you make a policy choice, it then means that there are foregone alternatives. In this case, government has chosen to encourage large transactions in Naira than make Forex, more foreign exchange earnings. And it's good for the country because it then ensures that Dangote is able, and other refineries are able to buy crude without FX exposure and are able to sell in Naira, improves guarantee of energy supply, and then also ensures that it doesn't necessarily mean prices will be cheaper.
All right, so that's it. Of course, it's an ongoing conversation. Even as we speak, I learned that stakeholders are having a meeting with the NMDPRA to iron out some of the areas that need understanding for the working of this buying crude with Naira. And I guess the most interesting part of that would be the fact that the rate will be fixed. It's supposed to, this offer is supposed to be for 3 years. That's what I learned. But of course, stakeholders are asking for a longer period. But to get details of that, I will be speaking to the chairman of CORAN, that's the Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria, in a bit. Another burning issue, obviously, as we know, is the protest, which is hanging in the air. Will it hold, will it not hold? We hope it will not turn violent. That's what we are all praying for. The police, the government, the people are praying that it will not get violent. But will the protest hold? Well, I guess that the protest organizers are determined to hold it in spite of some of this effort by the government asking for a better living or source of cost of living in the country. So let's see if perhaps there are some things that can still be put together. We know that the federal government did tell us yesterday that they'll be selling bags of rice for 40,000 Naira. Of course, we would need to get the designations of the areas where this will happen, you know, so people can actually access it, and how they hope to make it organized so there's no stampede. We've heard of stampede when they're trying to give palliatives, you know, so we'll look into that. So I guess we have Mr. Momo Yarikwa now, the chairman, Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria. I believe we have him joining us now. So we just conclude that issue on the crude being sold in Naira. Mr. Yarikwa, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ini. How are you doing today?
I'm great. So should I say congratulations at this time? Would you say that's worth it?
Anyway, it's congratulations to the country. I think the country stands to benefit more from this than even the players.
So what do we stand to benefit? I mean, it's going to give you less stress. You should have steady supply of crude now. You don't have to pull off your hair trying to get FX to actually import, whether locally or internationally, the crude.
For me, Ini, you see, I don't think Nigeria lack laws or lack policies to support any of our industries. I think it's the implementation that is always the challenge. And for me, with the pronouncement that was made yesterday, which I think is a welcome development, I think for the refining industry, this is the best that the government have done so far. But I would say we shall wait for the implementation of this, because if you look back to the PIA, there is a domestic crude supply obligation that has been made a law passed by the National Assembly. It's not been implemented. And we also have the backward integration, which, I mean, as it was alluded that Dangote wanted monopoly. It's not monopoly. It's something that is also in the law, in section 317 of the PIA, that once we are self-sufficient with the production of crude, of refined product, what will happen is backward integration, meaning there shouldn't be importation. Licenses should not be issued for importation. That has also not been implemented. So we hope that once this pronouncement has been made, that there will be implementation of it, because sometimes it's not the short of pronouncement, laws, and all of that that do not make our industry work. Is the implementation. Those people that are responsible to implement some of these things actually do not take it the way the laws of the federal government of Nigeria has probably intended them to be. So I think that is one of the major challenges.
All right, so I do know that there's a stakeholders meeting ongoing there, and I believe you have your ears, and I'm sure some of the issues being tackled there will be how these can be implemented. Have you heard of anything concrete coming from there, and how do you plan, how do we all make this happen, I mean the implementation?
Yeah, okay, the stakeholder meeting that is currently going on in Abuja with refiners, I think the midstream industry, not just refiners, which include the gas and the service providers, it's all about looking at the fees that are being charged, which fees and levies and all of that, but it's not much about the implementation of the pronouncement that was made yesterday. We have our staff there, so I'm not sure if this will be discussed. But however, looking at everything holistically, there are a whole lot of things that go against what I would say Nigerians in some of these pronouncements that are being made. For example, I'm happy to hear from yesterday's pronouncement that there will be a benchmark exchange rate for dollars for crude that will be supplied to Nigeria refineries. And also, one important thing is that we must know is that what would that benchmark rate be? Because it is important, because this is one thing that if implemented and that rate is good enough, will help to rather reduce the cost of product in Nigeria. Mostly when Dangote has announced that sometimes in August, he will start producing PMS. So if Dangote receives crude from NNPC and is able to actually produce PMS for the country and the exchange rate is not too high, then we could have affordable price for PMS in the country, because these are some of the things that we in the association, we have been agitating. I mean, I've been on the journey of asking crude to be priced in Naira in the last 3 years or more. And the reason I've been saying this is that when you look at the elements that will bring down the pricing of petroleum products in Nigeria, dollar and perhaps crude discount is one of those things that will contribute. So for me, what the pronouncement was yesterday is a welcome development. But I think there still need to be an engagement between the players in the refinery industry and the government. When I say the government, and not the regulators, it perhaps may even be the minister that is overseeing the economy. Why? Is because there are certain issues that we know about, we that are the players in this field, that we are able to advise the government to say, if you do this, it will help to ameliorate the challenges that Nigerians face with petroleum products today, and which in turn will help to ameliorate some of the issues of pricing of not just the petroleum product but other commodities, because whatsoever happens with petroleum products in the Nigeria of today somehow will affect the pricing of other products in the market, because you need vehicles to actually move products around.
All right, Mr. Momo Oyakirua, we certainly would follow up on this story. We'll follow up on you too. So when you have meetings and how this can be implemented, we would also bring it to our viewers and keep them informed. I'm almost sure that those meetings will hold, because, I mean, I guess the government is really trying to avert some of these protests and complaints by the people. But thank you so much, Chairman, Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria, for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So the other burning issue, obviously, is the planned protest, which is supposed to commence on Thursday, which is the first day in the month of August, and last for 10, 15 days. Some people say 10, some people say 15. And of course, they've tagged it #EndBadGovernance, and we call it the hardship protests. And we'll see if perhaps there are ways that this could be averted. My guest yesterday, talking about this issue, had said this is not a time for palliatives, but I wonder what we would hear today. We have joining us for that conversation Dr. Moye Chukwuka. He is a social innovator and he shares his thoughts on the planned protest. Dr. Chukwuka, good afternoon and thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great. So you're a social innovator. So I guess you have some social measures that we could use to calm nerves at this time.
Yes, thank you again. I think at the end of the day, we've had all sorts of debates regarding even, if this protest is necessary in the first place. That why are people coming out to protest? The short answer is yes. This is a democratic era, and part of democracy and key features is that expression, allowing people to express themselves. And I think that even the president recognizes that. He's an advocate for that. So that's the first thing I want to say. I think the second thing I'd like to say is that it's important for everyone to understand the cause or the triggers for this protest. Why do people want to come out? It's frustration. Okay. Now, and when you're frustrated, sometimes you're not going to make the most, will I say, practical, recommendations or demands. But that's not even where a lot of people are right now. They're just upset. They're just frustrated. Okay, and they're saying, "Hey, we need something to be done." Now, here's the good news, though. Even though the protest hasn't started, there are reactions from the government. The government is saying, we've been telling you we hear you, and we want to show you that we really hear you. Okay, and we've started to do certain things to prove that we hear you. Is it too late? I think that government should do more. Now, one of the things that a lot of people, I conduct research all the time. And one of the reasons, one of the things that people are saying on the field is that the government sometimes appears insensitive. Now, to sort of close that gap and appear more sensitive, you must engage. Government must increase its engagement, because you may come up with a lot of policies, but at the end of the day, if people are not hearing about it, if people don't know the impact, they will respond the way they deem fit. So I think that's one thing I would say, and then I'll probably add that another missing link, one of the things that people don't appreciate, which the government needs to spend more time on, is education. The reality is that there are some of these things, some of these macroeconomic issues that you deal with, through policy at federal level, but there are a number of them that you deal with at sub-regional levels. Okay, people at this point, they don't want to hear, but if somebody was communicating to them, they will probably begin to sort of have a better appreciation of the game plan. If you go on the street today and you ask people, what is the agenda of this administration? What is their plan? Many of them will tell you they don't. So perhaps having a clear communication program or communicating the plan of what you want to do in the next X number of months with clear timestamps would also help to calm a lot of the nerves.
Yeah, but one would say, I mean, I don't know if you heard the last guest. So even though we have this crude to be sold in Naira, which makes a lot of Nigerians expectant, even the implementation of that now is being questioned because it seems a lot of Nigerians have lost trust for the government. So even when they make pronouncements and policies that sound promising, implementation over the years have left a whole lot to be desired.
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, you're right about the trust deficit, but that's the reason why the plan needs to be clearer. Right now, all we know is, crude is going to be sold in Naira, big headline. When you engage people, I've interacted with a number of people since last night, and everyone is saying, yes, doctor, but, the devil is in the detail. Okay, so perhaps what needs to be communicated is that detail. How will this be done? Of course, stakeholders have already started engaging to come up with the details. But at the end of the day, that clarity is what helps, to sort of reduce that trust deficit. Let's remember that some of these inefficiencies in governance did not start today. It's something that has sort of accumulated over the years. So it's not something that you can just, I guess, use a magic wand and it goes off, instantly. But the moment the government indicates or displays more sensitivity, I think it will go a long way to calming the nerves.
What sensitivity do you think could help at this time?
So the communication is key. I think that, when you interact with a lot of consumers on the street, a lot of them are saying, oh, finally, because of protest, they're now hearing us. So perhaps a lot of the things that are being reeled out now should have come earlier. So that communication is key, and periodic engagement. Let there be clarity. That consistency will make a massive difference. A lot on the street are arguing. And we've not heard anything in a long time, but even when they complain, it almost seems like, the government is just, forget them. So I think that continuous engagement will help calm nerves. It will also help to sort of reduce that trust deficit.
Do you see this protest, can it be averted perhaps, since you say communication, have the president, a governor, a minister speak to the people? Do you see any way where this protest can be averted?
So I actually believe that for democracy's sake, it's important to allow people to express themselves, first of all. So I don't think it's a function of averting the protest or stopping it. There are many people that, of course, out there, most people say that, Mr. President himself is known for protesting, that he's the chief protester. So he's aware, right? At the end of the day, for him, For everybody, to be honest, the most important thing is that it is peaceful, okay? And there's even clarity, of the demands, and that the government is also responding and is seen to be listening to what the demands are. But to avert it, many people don't understand, what that means, because as far as they're concerned, they can't afford to buy food to eat, okay? And no one has come to explain anything to them. So even some of the analysis that we're having right now on air, a lot of people on the street are not hearing it. They haven't heard it. Well, a lot of this, and that's why I talked about communication earlier. Things need to be formatted in bite sizes, in the right format, in the right language, and disseminated to the common man for everyone to understand that, okay, there's actually a plan. And more importantly is that after you've communicated the plan, that you're communicating the progress, because again, you talked about trust. We've had plans for years. So why will this plan work now? So if we say that within the next 4 weeks, X has happened, communicate that progress so that everyone will just feel more comfortable and begin to truly hope and believe that maybe things will work out, eventually.
All right, sir. We certainly hope things will work out eventually, whether there's a protest or not. Thank you so much for your time, social innovator, Dr. Moyin Chukwuka. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, we head to the markets. We see results coming in everywhere. I think the most interesting one at this time would be that the livestock stocks have been soaring after the creation of the Ministry of Livestock Development. We'll see. We'll talk about that after the break. To join us again. Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated right here on Channels Television. We head to the markets now, where we've been seeing interesting figures. Talking about the financials of corporates. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first of all, let's look at the numbers at intraday. And we see Nigeria's exchange right there in the green, but not an exciting green because we're at 98. We've since lost the 100,000 level at 98,190, even though at intraday we see a 0.06% increase. Let's just stay in Nigeria now and look at some of those results. I think the most interesting one, obviously, is the livestock results, financials, earnings for the first half of the year. Just a couple of months ago, obviously, we remember that the President Bola Tinubu, did create the Ministry of Livestock Development, and we're like, do we really need it? I mean, we have the Agriculture Ministry. Doesn't that have a department that looks at livestock? But look at it right here. So investors would not agree with the people who were saying that. So, because right here we see the difference in their earnings for the first half of this year, January to June, right there. So revenue has gone up from 9.74 billion. That's what we had in June 2023 to by June 2024, it was 15. See, about 6 billion already added. Profit before tax, obviously, from 55.7 million to 652. That's a huge jump. And then profit after tax, even after the tax, they still had, in June last year, it was 37.3. But profit after tax for this year is 255.81. And look at the more interesting one right here, going from 1 naira 25 kobo to 14 naira for the EPS 25 kobo. That's a huge jump within a year. And this just happened within a couple of months since that ministry was created. Now let's find out what's really happened with Ambrose Omodio. Ambrose is an equity trader, a chief research officer with Invest Data Consulting. Ambrose, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So, I mean, this is a huge jump for livestock. Can we attribute this just to the creation of that livestock, or have we already started hearing maybe of some other things? That's why we see these positive movements in the stocks, the livestock.
Yeah, actually, we can attribute to the ministry that was created recently. I will tell you that for the last 2 years, we have seen improvement in livestock results. Well, they've been a negative, account for the past almost 4 years. But in the last 2 years, they are back to profit. What we're seeing, that we're seeing a better number coming to signal that this company, at the end of their current financial year, they might likely to reward their shareholder, because the past 8 years, they've not done that. That means investors are now seeing improvement. And don't forget that also anywhere in the world, every sector is a sector that has potential to generate money for Nigeria, also to feed Nigerians. But I think that if government with the new ministry can also bring out policy to further assist the agri sector, this company is going to do better than what we are seeing. That means some active investors and traders already seen opportunity. That's why they are keen to the store. It's not because of the creation of the ministry, it's just because we are seeing improvement and also on the company. Also knowing that the shareholding structure for this company is also, it's tight for investors to see price appreciation.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really worth asking, because we've seen it kind of very quiet for years. And then, so do we expect this positive trend to continue to the end of the year? Can this become a norm?
Yeah, actually, if you look at other companies in that industry, you see a great improvement that came from Okomu Oil and Presco. A signal that sector has a lot of potential to create wealth for designer investors. For me, the sector to watch. That is why in the market, sector rotation is a thing that will continue. As you are looking at these results that are coming, that's why the market are giving signal of weakness. Results that are coming to the market are mixed, but there are some industry that have shown strength that investors can now position their portfolio in that direction. That means for every investor, let the numbers that we're seeing now guide you to buy what into value.
Okay, all right. So what else is happening in the market this afternoon? We saw that recovery there, but we're still around 98,000, which is what we closed with yesterday.
Yeah, actually, I would say that for the last 6 trading days, we're seeing that investors are really, taking some decisions that are not really, they're indecision within the traders, because most of the stocks that are putting market down are banking stock, reacting to government policy as a result of what government taxing or the what we call the windfall as a result of FS gain, which in any market anywhere in the world, think that a sector of gain is not a result of taxing more than what we're seeing. But that investors are reacting to that. That's why banking industry are the one pulling the bar market down. That's why they are the one also that usher the bullish one we were seeing before now. And the trend is that other sectors were seeing a positive number are going to be what we call that rotation going to the food. That's why in this third quarter of the year, we'll give investors an opportunity to position for what? For the last quarter of the year. For me, what was saying just an opportunity for investors to buy into value at a discount. That means it's not going to send any panic in the market, but use the results that are coming now for you to position well in good company that has value.
All right, Ambrose, thank you so much, Ambrose Amodion, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Ambrose did mention Okomu. Let's look at the results for Okomu for the first half also. I could have the first half of Okomu right there. We saw revenue also went up for Okomu Oil. Our revenue went from 49.69 billion Naira to 76.01 billion. Okomu, let's have Okomu. It's Okomu I'm talking about. And then we also have profit after tax right there, 16.29 to 20.20. The EPS also did change just a bit from 16.89 to 21.7. Profit margin for 2024 half year is 26.90. Interim dividend at this time has gone from 4 Naira 50 kobo to 8 Naira. That's for Okomu. And then for Presco, which is in the same industry as Okomu, we see that the food sector is actually getting some attention at this time. So for Presco, we have revenue has also increased, looking really good, 83.11, and then profit after tax also really went up more than 100%, 158.002, and then profit margin for 2024 is 44.17, better than what it was this time last year. We don't have an interim dividend yet for that, but we can see perhaps these are areas, sectors or stocks that may interest you. Of course, it's also left for you to get consultancy and advice before you can put your money where your thoughts are. But I mean, These results are really looking, especially for the livestock, very eye-catching at this time. Now let's go to other markets and see what's going on right there. Nigeria is not the only country on the continent, is it? So Egypt is positive at intraday 0.23%, as well as Kenya. Kenya has been able to sustain their over 100, and their intraday, Monday, I beg your pardon, they gained 0.38% on that. Looking at other parts of the world now outside Africa, we could go to Middle East. The Middle East intraday, Abu Dhabi is up 0.10%. Dubai is actually in the red, 0.59%. And then let's see Asia, United States, Saudi Arabia, okay, there you have it, also in the red, both of them, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. For Asia, we see mixed color. The Nikkei has lost that 40,000 level, unfortunately, 38,525.95. The Kospi is so in the red, almost 1% down. Hang Seng Index more than 1% down at 1.37. Shanghai and for Australia also almost 0.5% each are losing. Right, the United States, interesting place. We know, expecting a lot of data this week. It's all counting down to that September interest rate cut, which is being expected. The Dow Jones is looking good at 40,818, 0.12%. S&P 500 also good. It's a green features market for the United States at this time, and hopefully with this positive trend that's going on, that will be sustained. Now, let's head to London and see what's happening right there. I hear that you may be able to buy McDonald's cheaper. I don't know, but Juliana joins us. Hi, Juliana. Good afternoon. So it seems there's a rethink of prices after the sales fall. I wonder if this will actually come to pass.
Yeah, really interesting, actually. Good afternoon, Innie. Not great news for parents, of course. We're bang in the middle of the summer holidays, aren't we? So children do love McDonald's. But besides the fact that the world's most iconic fast food chain has introduced a $5 value meal, I think they introduced that a couple of weeks ago. It's very much available in North America, although it will be pushed out towards Europe. But they will be boosting this $5 or £5, €5 value meal, because for the first time in 3 years, McDonald's sales have fallen short, which is really interesting. We're bang in the middle of second quarter trading updates, and McDonald's have updated investors in New York this morning, and sales are down by 1 percentage point in the second quarter. So that's April to June. They still amass sales of $2.46 billion US. So I'm not sure this 1 percentage point is going to dip their revenue that much, but it is showing. It is showing, Innie, that food inflation across the world, of course, you're experiencing it in Nigeria. We're also experiencing it here in the UK, but not as bad. But it is affecting cost, and it is making consumers just think twice about whether or not they are going to get a Big Mac at the end of a busy day, and whether or not they'll put something in the oven. And according to the trading update, that's exactly what McDonald's customers are doing. They are holding back, particularly in North America. I think sales have fallen most steeply there, but also in other areas across the world, like France, where sales are down, I believe, by more than 1 percentage point. How are they going to turn it around? Like you said, like I was saying at the top, they have introduced a couple of weeks ago this $5, £5, €5 value meal. This is supposed to be an extension of the Happy Meal, which I believe costs half of that, but you'd be able to get a value meal, so a bigger burger, a larger drink, more fries for just less than you would get for a Big Mac meal. But analysts are not pointing towards the fact that lifestyle has changed, and I think a lot of people are second guessing whether they want a greasy burger and oily chips, and whether or not they'll go for a salad. So perhaps as well, consumers are changing their eating habits So McDonald's will have to think about offering more salads, more fruit and vegetable to children who are addicted to a Mackie D's, as we call it locally here, Inni.
Yeah, I guess they call it rethinking their menu, not just their prices. Yeah, but let's look at the markets, how investors are doing this afternoon.
Well, as I said, we're bang in the middle of Q2 trading updates. Disappointing updates from Diageo, which is the world's biggest drink maker. They've had huge inventory problems in Latin America and in parts of North America. That's really affected their profits today in their trading update. An outlier, of course, is BP. One of the reasons why the FTSE started off the week in tip-top position is because oil prices, a barrel of Brent crude, has been up after being down. BP, one of the world's largest oil producers, has updated their trading profits today, showing that they've done exceptionally well in Q2. Of course, as well, markets reacting to the Chancellor of the Exchequer announcing yesterday in the Palace of Westminster that there's a £22 billion black hole which has been left behind by the Conservative government. There's a sparring match between her and the former Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt. He's not too pleased at some of the allegations that she put towards them. This is all shaping up the markets to be a negative territory at intraday. The all-share is down 0.17%. The FTSE 100, the blue chip index, that's down by 0.28%. And the FTSE 250, the domestic market, up slightly by 0.79%. In the currencies market, the British pound is currently trading up against the US dollar by 0.03%. The pound's still one of the world's leading currencies this year, though it's trading down against the euro by 0.11%, but up against the Japanese yen by 0.67% at intraday.
Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you.
All right, let's head to Berlin now, where the Belt and Road Initiative it's a Chinese initiative, but now we hear that Italy is pulling out, and the Italian Prime Minister is wrapping up a 5-day visit to China. We have Cassandra now to give us the details of that from what she's heard. Hi, Cassandra. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Inni. Well, the Belt and Road Initiative is one of the cornerstones of Chinese foreign policy. It's branded as the New Silk Road and is a way to make it easier for Chinese goods to get around the world. The project includes rail, road, and maritime infrastructure throughout Asia and increasingly into other continents like Africa and Europe. So these projects do come with a heavy price tag, however, and China has actually spent over $240 billion bailing out countries struggling with Belt and Road debt between the years 2008 and 2021. Now, Italy had first drawn some criticism from allies when it joined in on the initiative in 2019. It was, in fact, the only G7 nation to join the project. But since Italy elected Giorgia Meloni, who's a right-wing politician, that country has had a different attitude towards this project and pulled out last year, which caused some embarrassment for the Chinese. Now, the main problem the Italian government had is the trade imbalance between Italy and China, which Italy had felt had tilted into China's favor.
All right, Cassandra, thank you so much. I'm sure that's a story we have to follow up with in the coming days. Now, let's head to Zimbabwe, where the tourism receipts there went up by 35% to $241 million in the first quarter of this year, and that's up $178 million in the same period of last year, driven by increased international and domestic tourist arrivals. This growth was highlighted in the 2024 midterm budget and economic review that was presented by the Finance, Economic and Development and Investment Promotion Minister. And from there, we do talk about milk. Milk right here in Nigeria. Of course, it's connected to that livestock ministry that has been created. We have joining us for that, Seun Lawal is an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Hi, Seun. Good afternoon. So we know that in March, the central bank had lifted restrictions on importation of milk and dairy products. Now we hear that the ministry has been created. This is supposed to obviously boost production there. What are the expectations from these two initiatives of the government?
Hi, Henny. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Okay, so this ministry that was created, in the long run, the creation is still very short term. So we don't know what their plans are for improvement of dairy production now, but we believe that in the long run, they should have plans in place to make sure that we can improve the production of beef, because currently the dairy product we produce in Nigeria is around 500,000 tons, and we consume about 1.2 million tons. So there's like a 700,000 deficit that we need to, that leads to importation of these things, and we need to like pay forex to get some of this stuff into the country. So the ministry should be looking at how to bring this deficit and make sure that we can bring, we can reduce our forex expenses in the importation of dairy products.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, one of the reasons given for the creation of that ministry is to deal with the rift between the farmers and the cattle rearers, because obviously we do have the potential to produce as much and even more than what we need to produce. So I guess also looking at the area of the rift and insecurity might be one solution to boosting domestic production.
Aside insecurity, I think one of the things we need to actually look at is the production. Let me start by saying that the breed of cow we produce in Nigeria, basically 90% of them are for beef and less than 10% are for milk. So there are special breeds that are specifically for dairy products, and we don't have a lot of that in Nigeria. So what we need to do is to first solve that problem by bringing in more of these breeds, improving our production in area of these breeds. And one more thing we also need to look at is the area of nomadic rearing of cow. It's really affecting the production of dairy products in Nigeria. For example, the average weight of a cow in Nigeria is around 300 kilograms compared to Kenya, where they have 700 kilograms. And because of that, what we get from this cow is around 1.2 liters of milk per day. And Kenya is getting like 12 liters per day. So you see the difference, because some of these cows, moving them from one state to the other, you know, to graze, it affects their health. They are exposed to ticks, they are exposed to fly, which cause sleeping sickness in these animals. And all those factors actually reduce their output. So if you are able to like branch into the ranching kind of system like they practice in Kenya, aside the insecurity, we should be able to ramp up production.
All right, Seun Lawal, thank you so much for that. We certainly are expectant from results from that newly created ministry.
Thank you for having me.
So Ladi is just about to step in, but before that, one of the stories we promised you today is to tell you that International Monetary Fund has agreed to lend Ethiopia $3.4 billion, but they'll be having that over 4 years, and it's part of the economic reform program, which is a key step to begin negotiations with creditors on restructuring of the nation's debt. Do remember that yesterday we told you that Ethiopia is floating its currency. Now we've seen the currency, the birr, drop. But at least they do have this now. Perhaps that will buffer the value of that $3.4 billion from the IMF to be spread over 4 years. Let's head to the crypto space now and see what Ladi has. Ladi,
Ladi doesn't have milk, but Ladi has...
You have IMF?
At this point.
Oh, I thought you had IMF.
No, because I know how you like your milk. So I'm just going to breeze through this market right now. $66,000. That's what we have for Bitcoin. It did try to breach that 70,000 level, but we see a pullback there. Bitcoin miners, two headlines now. Bitcoin miner revenue surged about from $100,000 to about $1 billion monthly, showing growth and market evolution. Right there to another headline now. U.S. government has transferred about $2 billion worth of confiscated Bitcoin. The funds were moved yesterday, and that's according to data from Look On Chain. We know with crypto, you see all of those transactions right there on the blockchain. But let's discuss some most of the pressing issues now. We have joining us Adedayo Adebajo, is a co-founder ICB.hub Sahara, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, once again. Having me.
Right. So we know the burning issue right now, the proposed hardship protests, and definitely we've seen, in most countries where they have protests like these, we've seen crypto and Bitcoin actually play a role. Talk to me about what you're expecting if this actually goes through. What role Bitcoin is going to play in this?
Well, it's quite obvious, definitely, because it's possible for government to put some restrictions on some certain level of transactions for people who are trying to support this certain protest. The government, being what they are, the potentials for this process to go through. But when it comes to Bitcoin, it's kind of most likely possible to fund most of these protests from diverse geopolitical areas across the continent. So people from UK, from US, anywhere can decide to fund this protest by paying a certain amount of Bitcoin into several wallets of the protesters, just to be able to support the ongoing issue across the country. So just Bitcoin, any cryptocurrency can be used. So far, it is something that can be received via wallets. And this can, of course, be monitored or be controlled by the government.
Right, and definitely we did see that happen with the NSAS protest. But coming back to the technology, at this time we've seen a lot of talk about Ethereum ETFs, the Bitcoin ETFs. Talk to me about how these ETFs are impacting the tech. We know some people are in it for the money, and some still are in it for the tech, as they say.
Yeah. So when it comes to the monetary aspect, I mean, even the tech folks are always in it for the money. If there is nothing about financial gains, nobody will go into tech. And of course, all investors as well are also in it for the monetary aspect. So the ETF kind of make it possible for people who do not necessarily need to bother themselves about the technological aspects of Bitcoin, Ethereum, or probably even with the difficulty in getting into the market. From getting their own wallets to buying on exchanges, from securing their own wallet, but they want to participate in the price fluctuations. So ETF basically makes that possible for them to be able to get involved just by getting them involved in these institutions through the exchange traded funds. So ETF makes that possible for them to be able to get it done. But when it comes to the technical aspect, yeah, it also makes it possible for majority of the tech founders to also, because it then becomes more stable. Becoming more stable, also becoming more global for people that are not in the frame of Bitcoin or Ethereum or cryptocurrency, community to be. Also, it is increasing the wide audience. So most of the tech founders also see the need to continuously, invent, like creating more wallets, increasing the lightning speed, also creating areas around, let's say, chain fusion technology and ICP, which enables people to transact at faster and cheaper rates. So a lot of things are always involved when institutions get involved in the whole Bitcoin, Ethereum, or the cryptocurrency ecosystem.
Right, definitely all about ETFs at this point. But thank you so much. It was great having you. Adedayo Adebajo is the co-founder of ICP.hub, Sahara. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so Ini, there you have it. This market, we know how it plays into everything. That's crypto.
Yeah, well, I hope you're not calling attention to your space or to the crypto space.
It is going to play a role, even if I don't call it.
In this protest period,
it is going to play a role.
You don't want attention there, right. Trust me.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, Ladi. So that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated. We'll have another fresh experience waiting for you tomorrow. I'll see you tonight for the Stock Market Report. I'm John McCoy. Bye-bye.